episode called BeeWare, and I think so far this is one of the better episodes. It felt really professionally made, I think. But there were still some awkward parts. Like, for instance, when they were in the autopsy room and then they started cracking jokes around the dead body.
Oh,
I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, they seem to do that in every episode. Like, remember the iPod? The first episode?
Mm-hmm.
They're laughing about the iPod song,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other episode they're making jokes too. We commented before how, I mean, we understand that they should be used to seeing things like this because it's part of their job, but at the same time, don't think that they have to be so nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
That's the word I always use.
Yeah, and I know probably they're trying to be mix that horror with comedy again, but it just seems inappropriate.
Yeah,
all the time.
Like you were saying last time, it detracts from how good the show is when they have these serious storylines and trying to be cinematic, but then they crack jokes like that, and it makes it feel a little more like low budget, even though it's not.
Yeah. Then in this episode, I liked how subtle it was whenever Nick would see the real identities of people, and I like how they're not doing that slant that they sometimes would do in films where you're seeing stuff and then the character starts looking crazy in front of everybody else because he starts thinking, like, starts saying, "Oh, did you see that? His face changed," or something like that, and then people are like, "Oh, you're crazy."
Oh,
but then
I see
here
what you
they're
mean.
not going for that, and it makes more sense. It feels more mature when they do that.
Right, and it's just Nick knows he's the only one who can see it, so, and he's coming to terms with what he has to do. So instead of getting all, like, he's still stressed out about it, but instead of getting crazy over it, he's just trying to do what he has to do.
And then I also like that the appearances of Nick and Hank were pretty good in this episode. They didn't look too prim and proper, so they looked more like believable cops, less manicured.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that. That's a good point. I also like how Nick's girlfriend is becoming more prominent in the show. So we could see, like, especially in this episode, it seemed like they were a real couple.
Yeah, that was really a cute scene that they showed.
Yeah, it's not like some fake banter or just like some like body language or whatever. They seem like a genuine couple.
Oh, and I think the acting is getting a lot more relaxed and comfortable. And Nick's character is getting more used to having that cop feeling about his character. Like that scene where Nick finally confronts Shade when they were trying to protect her. But then he finally confronts her and says that he knows that she's the one that tried to kill his aunt. I like that scene. There was good acting in that scene, and I really felt the tension. And it was one of those moments where you really felt like you're watching a story instead of actors playing out a scene.
So you had explained to me earlier.
Oh yeah, for this episode, I didn't know what fairy tale they were referring to.
Yeah,
so I had to actually,
I
had to actually do research, and I didn't. I'm still not sure if it is the one because it seems so far off. Because I did find a Grimm fairy tale called the Bee Queen.
That's what we were talking about last time. How you mentioned that this show makes you want to look up the fairy tale again to reread and see how it plays with the episode. And in this case, Grimm doesn't purport to show us the fairy tales we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
And then show us like a different version of it. So I like how they picked a fairy tale that most of us are probably not familiar with. Like we're familiar with things like Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, but this one I'd never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
So it encourages people to go and visit the text, not just
Mm-hmm.
revisit, but visit texts that they don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good way to increase literacy.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause
Yeah, that's really nice.
this show seems like it's for adults. It is for adults,
Yeah.
an adult audience, but like young people could watch it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can go and say, I'd like to know what this fairy tale is really about, and they go and revisit it. I think that's pretty cool. So again, they use the framework of a Grimm fairy tale, but it didn't have to be exactly what the original was.
Mm-hmm.
So they're creating new stories out of these old ones,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a really good technique.
Mm-hmm. And this episode was pretty smooth in how the story unfolded, and it tied in all the characters pretty well too. Like,
Right.
people didn't just show up randomly.
Right.
And then I think it did well in creating more mystery for Nick's character.
Yes, I agree. It wasn't very predictable. There were parts where I was very unsure what would happen. I was
Mhm.
kind of sitting on the edge of my seat,
Mhm.
waiting to see what would happen next.
Yeah, there was good suspense when Nick took Eddie to that house, and then they found the beehive upstairs. That was creepy.
Yeah, it was.
Even the ending scene where Nick is closing the window, and then that bee lands on his hand.
Right. It was very meaningful. Because when
Yeah.
you look at that, it's like, you could see it as a symbolic gesture on Nick's part, where he's opened himself to what he has to do.
That's
He's willing
true.
to accept it, and
Mhm.
he's letting the bee, walk around
Mhm.
his hand, even if it will sting. He
Mhm.
knows the danger.
Mhm.
He does get stung, but
Yeah. And then there's a lot of ominous foreshadowing about his fiance too.
how she was supposed to close the window, but he did it for her.
Yeah, that's true. And just the way that they frame their relationship. He always seems sad when he's looking at her.
Yeah, because of what his aunt said.
Mhm.
He knows that his girlfriend or fiance is in danger
Mhm.
for being with him.
Mhm.
But I still can't shake off the feeling that there's more to her than what we see. I keep thinking that in the end.
Your prediction.
Right, I don't know. I just feel like in the end she's gonna end up being a key player. Either she knows what's really going on, but she's just not saying it,
Mhm.
or she's part of it, like
Mhm.
she's one of the
Bad guys.
right, but she's trying to be good like Eddie.
Mhm.
And then there's gonna be that whole conflict between her and Nick.
Mhm. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
so-
We'll see what they'll do
Yeah.
with that.
So let's just add some comments on last night's episode of Once Upon a Time. Okay, so now we're introduced to more characters. Cinderella. And
We get to know more about Rumple.
yes,
Oh, and we meet another prince. Cinderella's prince.
who's very gallant, just like Prince Charming.
Mm-hmm.
I like the male characters. There's more to them in the show than, like, they're more developed than they are in the original fairy tales, where they're just there to save the woman. But then in the show, you see that they care about more than just the woman's beauty. They care. There's like more involved, like family.
That's true. Like this one, you would
Mhm.
think that he would have felt betrayed when he finds out Cinderella used magic to get him, but then he
Right.
didn't even. So I thought that was nice.
Right.
That he still liked her for her.
Yeah, he said that magic may have helped her, but it didn't cause him to fall in love with her.
Mhm.
So that was like something natural.
Mhm.
But I feel like the women in this story are not given that same depth.
Yeah.
Emma, they're trying to give Emma that depth because she is the main character,
Mhm.
and the queen seems to have a complicated character as well.
Mhm.
But like with Cinderella, she seems so fake.
Mhm.
like they try to give her depth in the modern day version where she's like a young girl who's struggling with the conflict. Should she keep her baby even though she's not ready, or should she give the baby away to have a better life? But in the past version, she seems to be very superficial.
Yeah, her character, I didn't like how they were making Cinderella seem really desperate and frankly even trashy.
Yes, because the whole reason why we are so we are so interested in her character in the fairy tales because she's such a nice person, right? Even though these bad things are happening to her, in all the versions she just continues to you know, just take it and bear it. I'm not saying that's good. You know, some people might criticize Cinderella for not trying, but I think there's a difference between trying to change your destiny, which they were trying to say was what Cinderella did in this story, in the show, but I don't think that she really took action. She had a fairy godmother who Rumpelstiltskin killed, right? But then, like you said, she was so desperate that she just signed the agreement with him.
Yeah, even begged him.
Yes.
To help her.
So she knew the consequences. It wasn't like she went out and like tried to change her. Like Snow White says, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. You showed that anyone can change your destiny." Not really. She showed that anyone who makes a bargain with a bad guy can change her destiny. Like she didn't go out and like find her own dress, like sew it or whatever.
Well, in fairness, nobody knew what she had done. Remember, she still had to tell her prince, like confess to him what really happened.
Right, but it's like they're trying to show, like, say that that's what she did. That she changed her destiny.
Because she could have told them the truth right then and there, right?
Yeah, like, I was expecting her to look guilty when Snow White said that to her.
Yeah, she didn't even... She didn't even look guilty.
In their minds, what she did was changing her destiny. But all she really did was trick people.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
And she got around it the lazy way, where she just signed some document and expected not to face those consequences in the future. Like, why was she so surprised when Rumpelstiltskin came back?
Yeah,
and said, "Remember our bargain?"
Pay her debt.
Yeah, suddenly he's the bad guy because he's coming back to make sure she fulfills her end of the bargain. Like, he is a bad guy, but she should have known that from the beginning when he killed her fairy godmother. She should have known, maybe I shouldn't be making deals with people who murder other people, you know? So, I feel like I'm not really liking her character in the past.
And I know that they're telling us that these are the characters that we know, but not really. But they didn't even give anything in Cinderella for the audience to like.
Yeah.
She lacked any dignity. So I didn't want to feel bad for her at all.
Yeah, I mean, I felt for her character in Storybrooke.
Yeah, that side.
Yeah, they gave her a little more depth in that, like a little more complication.
Yeah.
I could feel for her in that story, and it's tied to Emma's story as well. They have like they're mirroring each other in a way, right? So I thought, okay, that's like a good idea. But like you said, wasn't like Cinderella's character in the past.
Not a good character, and it was awkward too when Emma first meets Cinderella in Storybrooke. Just all of a sudden, she comes up to Emma and starts telling her
life story.
Her life story.
Yeah, I get that.
There wasn't even an introduction. Like,
yeah.
Hi, who are you?
Like, really? If you spilled stuff on yourself in a diner, would they necessarily let you use their washroom? Like, wow, like, that's, I don't know, maybe from where I come from, that never happens. You just go home and change.
And
just a little too convenient.
Yeah, a little bit too convenient. And then, I know I keep saying this, but the characters, when they're in Fairy Tale Land, they just look so tired.
Yeah, I mean, if it's such a magical place, why don't people look magical? If everything's enchanted.
I mean, they look pretty, they have nice dresses and everything.
Yeah, there's a freshness that's lacking. Yeah. And I would venture to say even Emma's missing that freshness as well in Storybrooke. Her mother looks a little fresher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the queen looks prettier than everybody.
Yeah, so we know for sure that there's something different about them.
Mhm.
That those two are definitely enchanted characters.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Emma's son looks like an enchanted character as well.
Yeah.
He's
Because the way he acts seems otherworldly.
yeah, like he's not like a regular kid.
Mhm.
Why does he know all these things? There has to be something more. I feel like if the twist is what you had suggested in the beginning, where he was named after the queen's father.
Mhm.
I know the queen's father perished in the past. Wouldn't it be interesting to see him kind of come back
Mhm.
in the boy's character?
Mhm.
And that would explain why he knows all these things.
I would like that twist if they did that. But it seemed like they killed it too at the same. They brought it up and then killed it. I think the second episode.
Well, maybe they can find a way to bring it back or something, or explain why the kid knows so much. Because I still cannot accept that the kid is the guide. I know that fairy tales are usually told to children, but as we've seen, I'm going to reference Grimm, fairy tales were not originally written for children.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't naturally or inherently make sense that her son
Mm-hmm.
would know about
Mm-hmm.
like the real story behind the fairy tales.
And then I'd say the only character that has really developed so far is Rumpelstiltskin's character.
You just really like his character.
But it's just like he's the only one that we know. We're learning about him, and we're actually seeing how his character lives in the fairy tale world as well as in the real world.
That's true. I know in the fairy tale, Rumpelstiltskin wants the firstborn child,
Mhm.
right? But they still haven't explained why. I mean, maybe we're supposed to wonder why, but I don't see how that's gonna work out. Because remember, he had asked for Snow White's firstborn as well. So now he has Cinderella's firstborn. He has rights to Cinderella's firstborn. He has rights to Snow White's firstborn. And he had rights to the maid's firstborn in Storybrooke,
Mm-hmm.
who's supposed to be Cinderella, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is he going to accomplish by asking for the firstborn of each of these people?
Oh, and then there's Emma's firstborn.
Exactly,
Remember?
I was going to bring that up too. Emma's
Yeah.
firstborn is also
And now she owes him
a favor.
Hmm.
So he's going to ask for her firstborn as well, right? But for what purpose?
'Cause he's a pervert.
I don't know. In summary, Once Upon a Time is getting a little better
Mhm.
with some characters,
Mhm.
like
Getting a little
Rumpelstiltskin,
deeper.
right? And now they're throwing in like the other story of the queen having a relationship with the police.
Yeah, didn't I tell you that he was the hunter?
We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was gross. That was a gross scene.
And then I have a feeling he's gonna want to get with Emma,
Emma.
which is weird too.
Ew.
Anyway, but
That's
yeah.
a really small town. Oh, and then finally explain that when characters leave Storybrooke, they don't fare well in the real world.
Because that would answer the question of why people don't leave.
Yeah. Finally.
But it would be nice for the boy to stop saying things that are pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only one who can leave, you're the hero.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, every episode you're always trying to
yeah,
tell
they're
people
always
what they're
telling
supposed to
us
know.
what. Could you at least show it? It would have been nice if they had shown when she was trying to leave. That's when she starts going into labor.
Right.
The pain that comes up when they try to leave. That kind of symbolism. But they didn't even show it to us. Again, it was the kid telling us nobody can leave or else they get
I like
into
the
trouble.
kid's character.
Yeah, he's
But
cool.
why do they always make him say stuff like
Yeah.
that, you know?
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.